everyone. Let's resume our Aeon Essays where we left yesterday. So where we are, I think last time we finished this series. So let's start with this one. The greater harm to democratic life lay in the state's vaguely written laws, administered by anonymous figure. So let's see what this passage holds. His experts assured judges that there was manifest public value in the adult citizens having access to up-to-date, scientifically credible information about the mysteries of human sexuality, in reading about complicated matter of sexual desire, in controlling their reproductive lives, in achieving greater material happiness, in reforming law that penalized people for sexual acts that were actually widely practiced. The law lagged far behind people's actual behavior. Ernest was a small Democrat who evoked the competent, rational adult citizen at the conceptual center of democratic theory. Democratic Democracy demanded that rational adults be able to navigate a thriving marketplace of ideas. So this passage is saying that there is a lots of desires of adult peoples which are banned, but along when they are banned, still that acts are majorly followed in masses. Not in masses means in that acts are majorly followed, despite of their ban from doing that in wider range. So the title of this passage is The Demand of Rational Adults. So basically this passage is saying that the Ernest was a small Democrat who evoked this component, that the demand of that rational adults. His main motto behind is that instead of penalize people, let them let them explore it, let them know what's their limit and what the idea they get from it. Even we penalize them, still that work is not stopped. That's still practice in wider range. So what points we can take in from here is first one is this one. The law lagged far behind people's actual behavior. And another one is this. Rational adult citizens at the conceptual center of democratic theory, which demands rational adults be able to navigate a thriving marketplace of ideas. So let's moving toward the next spaces. Ernest's fight for Ulysses against the obscenity law was fired by his conviction that the greater harm to democratic life lay not in some readers possibly being aroused by reading modern fiction, but rather in the state's continued use of vague written law, administered by anonymous figure in impenetrable federal agencies whose decisions were rarely challengeable, while reading certain kind of materials might well inspire lust. The true harm was in depriving citizens to access to the great work of modern literature. So this passage is saying that Ernest is not against uh, the authors who are writing the fictional stories which encourage or which inspire the lust in the people. But the true harm here is that depriving citizens of access to the great work of modern literature. He also agreed that this kind of a work may inspire lust and lust desires, but it's also, if banning all these things also harm the citizens of by hiding them, or by hiding them behind the wall of the modern literature. So the title of this passage is what the main motto of Ernest behind the Ulysses. Main motto of Ernest was fight for Ulysses. And what we can take from here is, he says that there are various anonymous figures who are whose writing are challengeable, but they are not making sense to the public, or they are not in that direction of uh, giving knowledge instead of inspiring the lust in the people. So he was not against that, but he was against the modern literature, some authors who are using that things but in a great way. So that shouldn't be banned, that should be known to the public so that they get uh, the knowledge of the modern literature. So we can take from this line, but rather in the state continue use of vague written law administered by the anonymous figure in impenetrable federal agency whose decisions were rarely challengeable. So we can this line also. Materials well might inspire us. The true harm was in depriving citizens of access to the great work of modern literature. This two line we can take from this passage. So let's moving toward the next one. When Ernest and Lindy finally freed Ulysses in 1933, which is a decision upheld in the Second Circuit Court of Appeal in 1934, the win brought Ernest near celebrity status in New York City literary world as well as in the nation's civil liberty circle. For a time, he was recognized as one of the most important civil libertarians in the US in 1944. Life magazine, one of the 20th century's most widely circulated periodical, published a multi-page profile of Ernest, introduced the broader public to his accomplishment in the realm of sexual and literary free speech. The focus was Ernest's remarkable streak of victories in high-profile sexual censorship cases. Life's Fred Rodin ascribed Ernest's success to his abundant energy, alert eyes, and athletic strength, to his exhibitionism, that is, his desire for fame. So this passage is saying that in 1933, Ernest and Lindy finally won the Ulysses case, and from that time they become a celebrity in New York City. They are known as the what we can say, a libertarian of the free speech. So the title of this passage is Description of Ernest von Ulysses. So what we can take from here is, he was recognized as one of the most important civil libertarians in US, and His accomplishment in realm of sexual and literary free speech, and Ernest's remarkable string to victories in high-profile sexual censorship cases. That's all for this basis. Let's moving toward the next one, which is a quite longer, but okay. The Ulysses case earned Ernest the reputation of being preeminent among lawyers crusading against censorship. As an earlier essay in Scribner's note, before Ernest came along, the wise crusader used to scare booksellers into plea of guilty and light fine by promising to get the case over quickly and without publicity, but by the waging almost continuous warfare against federal, state, local, private, and ecclesiastical censorship body. Ernest changed that dynamic. As the live profile observed, with the dick thrown in, Ernest could crown with pardonably pride that no book published by a regular publisher or reviewer by a regular critics, no book published honestly or without surreptitious, is in any danger of suppression. In 2019, the novelist Michelle Cabin, the New York Reviewer of Book, hailed Ernest's defense of Ulysses. Ernest was known and much sought after a gifted, skilled, and crazy courtroom attorney with a discerning eye of kinds of cases that could change the law if you want them. Cabin proclaimed that Ernest achieved a level of mastery similar to Joyce's, as he had brought as much artistry and erudition and sly masterful skills to defending one book called Ulysses as its author had brought to its creation. So, the title of this passage is Impact of Ernest after Ulysses, after winning Ulysses. So this says that Ernest means the case of Ernest spotlight the many of things about him. It says that how he just gained the trust of the public by fought for this general reasons. Here is it's given about the many examples like cabins and many more. So let's see what we can take from here is. First we can take this. The reputation of being preeminent among lawyers crusading against censorship. Crow with pardonably pride that no book published by the regular publisher or reviewed by a regular critics, no book published honestly without surreptitious is in danger of suppression. This we can take. This also. Ernest was known and much sought after as a gifted, skilled, and cazily courtroom attorney with the disconcerting eye of the kinds of cases that could change the law if you want them. So that's all for this passage. Let's moving toward the next one. But Ernest's story did not end with Ulysses. His own growing concern with The threats of US democracy in the late 1930s led him down a path of increasing intolerance toward US communists. Deep rift formed between himself and other ACLU leaders. His record became especially troubling when he took up a friendly, even sycophantic relationship with J. Edgar Hoover, whose 5-decade reign at the helm of the FBI was fraught with illegal, unethical, anti-democratic activities that destroyed many careers and took some lives. In the decades after the Second World War, Ernest lost track of his core free speech principles. He framed nearly every issue through the Cold War lens of struggle between democracy and dictatorship. He came to argue repeatedly that US communists did not have free speech rights because of the danger they posed to the US democracy. So, this passage is talking about the concern of the Ernest. What the Ernest's main concern? Not just that Ulysses case, but what evoked him to just taking that case as a consideration at the first place. So this says that the Ernest's main concern is the struggle of the free speech, and there is a struggle between democracy and dictatorship. So the title of this passage is Ernest's concern, the concern of Ernest. So what we can take from here is the struggle between the democracy and dictatorship. The first we can take this. And the second one is the US communists does not have the free speech right because of the danger they pose to US democracy. So this all for this two line we can take for this whole passage, which is useful. Let's moving toward the another series of the passage. Ernest and his colleagues helped many anti-censorship principles, core precepts of modern US liberalism. So let's see what this passage holds. I think that this is the last passage of this whole essay. In the furors of that tempestuous era, Ernest discarded his civil libertarians' bearings. Nearly all his allies from earlier battle deserted him. His former friend and admirer asked how Ernest, the great ACLU leader and defender of Dennett, Stopes, Sanger, Joyce, Alfred Kinsey, and many other sexual modernists could make common cause with Hoover. Perhaps it was in the vain hope that he could make Hoover more sophisticated of due process. But if so, he was duped. Their entire one-sided relationship destroyed Ernest's reputation with civil libertarians, and Ernest's legacy was taken a beating from with which it is not likely to recover. I am not aiming to recuperate his reputation. So this passage is saying that there is some what we can say there is some incidents or some conflicts which harms the Ernest's reputations. So the title of this passage is what causes the what causes that demean the Ernest's reputations. First one is the common causes with Hoover, who is it is here given about the Hoover. who is a 5-decade reigns of helm of FBI, what fought with illegal, unethical, anti-democratic activities that destroy many careers and took some lives. So he said that this passage saying that the friendship with the Hoover harmed the reputation of the Ernest, and how it's harmed. Why it's harms friendship with the Hoover? Why it harms the reputation of Ernest? Because Ernest Hoover is known for illegal work and illegal activities, but here Ernest is totally opposite of him. He is the fighter against all this. But why why he has a friendship with that person? So what we can take is the entirely one-sided relationship destroy Ernest's reputation with civil libertarian and Ernest's legacy that has taken a beating from which it is not likely to recover. So this we can take from this basis. Let's moving toward the next basis. However, I think it is important to separate Ernest, the flaunt man, from Ernest, the anti-censorship strategist who took on the formidable censorial power of the federal and state obscenity law. Ernest and his colleague gave legal console to some of the great protagonists of the first sexual revolution and helped make anti-censorship principle core precept of modern US libertarianism, shaping the law to better protect personal sexual privacy, sexual selfhood, reproductive autonomy, sexual self-determination, and the right to not be discriminated against on the basis of sex and sexual identity. So here it says that why we can separate the flaws of Ernest from the who the Ernest as a anti-censorship strategist are, that because of his protagonist of the first sexual revolution, which helped many anti-censorship principle, core concept of modern libertarians, which is shaping the law to better protect personal sexual privacy. So the title of this topic is the passage is what makes Ernest as an anti-censorship strategist from the flaws of Ernest. So what we can take that formidable sensory power to the federal and state obscenity law means a great protagonist of, we can take this lines, for sexual revolutions and help make anti-censorship principle core precept of modern US libertarian, shaping the law better protect personal sexual privacy. That's all for this passage. Let's moving toward the next one. In the past several years, the US has witnessed a rash of censorship laws and book bans, a political backlash designed to turn back the clock with regard to human sexual freedom, knowledge about race and racism, and women's reproductive rights. Not surprisingly, conservatives are invoking the availability of the 19th century Comstock's obscenity law, never fully repealed, to prohibit the interstate distribution of drugs, mifepristone, which is a part of so-called abortion pills. They are also appealed to Comstock himself as a beacon in their effort to combat of abortifacients and contraceptive sex education, positive portrayal of the LGBTQ plus community, and anything else they perceive as obscene or pornography. So the saying that there is not about just banning the books and imposing some laws against the against the Comstock, but there is also prohibit the interstate distribution of the drugs which cause abortions and all. So the title of this passage is What More Need to Do for Obscene in Modern World. In today's modern world. So first, the prohibit the interstate distribution of drugs, Mephiston, and appeal to Comstock himself as a beacon in their effort to combat this whole thing, pornography and all. So that's all for this passage. Let's moving toward the next one. That the 150-year-old federal statute authored by the Comstock is being evoked in 2023 is chilling, and it's revealed just how reactionary and puritanical the US rights has become. Attacks on sexual identity, sexual knowledge, and female reproductive autonomy have been the main issue of the most of the culture wars, disputes over the past 4 or 5 decades, especially the assumption that women's bodies are the subject of men's political and personal excess. This notion are at the heart of the patriarchal thinking as they were in the age of Comstocks. And now the cruel contemporary conservatives' assault on trans people, their right to public presence, their right to medical knowledge and technologies, their right even to stand forward medical advice is gaining momentum. So this passage is talking about the whole war and the politics are about the human body. The men assume that the human bodies are they subject to political and personal excess. But in the today's generation, the same thing is happening with the trans peoples. So it is much more important to create an awareness among them, to create a right to public presence, right to their medical knowledge and technology, and even right to straightforward medical advice to them. So what the title of this passage is, what's the problem? The main problem, we can say that what the main root of problem in earlier US and now what's the current problem in the modern US. What's not just a problem, we not consider it's a problem, we can say that who are the problems in the earlier US and who are the problems now in the modern US, in the modern world. The first, the women's. So that's the title. Who are the problem in the earlier US and who are the problem of the modern US. So first that the women. Problem of earlier US is women. They are considered, we can take this as they are considered subject to men's political and personal excess. Now it is now we need to focus on the right of the public rights of the trans peoples, the rights to public presence, the rights to medical knowledge and technology, and their rights to medical advices. So let's moving toward the last passage of this Aeon. Ernest and his colleagues clearly understood that the public should have access to dependable, well-sourced, up-to-date marketplace of sexual knowledge that might make people's life happier and more fulfilling. Personal autonomy and access to knowledge, they reckon is the starting point of achieving personhood in a democratic society. They would certainly recognize that the legal work is far from done and would be horrified that the ghost of Comstock is being welcomed back by right-wing legal architects opposed to abortions and contraceptive access generally. US progressive forces, lawyers, and journalists in particular would do well to recall the work of the long forgotten Morris Ernest. So this passage is saying that the whatever Ernest do as a lawyer, his main motto to brings the life makes the people life happier and fulfilling. But in today's world, in today's legal world, now it is very important to legalize the opposition of abortions and contraceptive, which would recall the forgotten work of Morris Ernest, which he did. He stand for the people, absent people there. Now this time, because of him, by recalling him, we need to oppose to abortions and contraceptive access generally. So that's all for this passage. There is no title needed for the last passage. So this is just a summary that we need to oppose the abortion and contraceptive access by recalling the long forgotten Morris Ernest. That's all for this. Let's hope you guys meet you again with the new Aeon. So for that, thank you.